Hey guys, so I have Emily Harveaux on with me today, who is such an inspiration. She has such an awesome story and probably the most amazing transformation I've seen, to be honest, on carnivore with her weight loss journey. She's been a 1 year carnivore now, I believe. I consider her to be one of the best fasting experts around, so that's why I wanted to have her on today, because fasting is something that I've really become interested in myself. But I guess the best way to start, Emily, would be, I guess, just to tell us your story and tell us about that transformation that you went through in the last couple of years.
Thank you. I'm in my new healthy self, been here for quite some time now. And so it's kind of hard for me to it's not hard to remember, but it's just kind of cool just to be like, this is who I am now. But I used to be the size of two of me. So I'm
Yeah,
in
Emily, can I just,
yeah,
I'm just going to share the screen here with these
yeah,
folks.
perfect. Absolutely.
Here we
Absolutely.
had
Oh,
Emily,
good.
look at
You've
this,
got it.
2017 to 2021. Check that
Yep.
out. That
Thank
is
you.
fasting and carnivore right there.
Absolutely. That's what that is. There is no doubt. Yeah. So no, I appreciate it. And it's fun. And I put those up. I have I love to talk about this on Instagram. The reason I joined Instagram was to learn more about this lifestyle because I was so interested in the carnivore lifestyle. And so I love to put some motivators up there. I want people to understand I came out of morbid obesity. Carnivore was the end of my journey. The beginning of my journey was more in the intermittent fasting world. And I think that what happens is as you get more and more experience with fasting, your nutrition becomes more and more important. You understand the relationship between excellent nutrition and comfortable fast or successful fast. And so for me, rounding out that journey with the last 40 pounds I lost through combining carnivore and fasting together. The first 110 I lost mostly through fasting with a keto type of a diet. So I came to this at middle age. I was 46. I'm now 50. And so I just want people to know that too, and I think this is pretty common. I think that a lot of the folks coming to the carnivore diet, I think we've talked about this, tend to be midlifers. Not that we don't have young people. Hopefully my children will be some of the young people that are coming to this, but it seems to be that there's something about the demographic that seems to be in the midlife category. So anyhow, have you noticed that too, Scott?
Well, I don't like to think of myself as middle life, but I guess I
Oh,
have.
gotcha.
I guess I have entered the middle life now.
Okay. Okay.
I'm feeling pretty old these days with a 5 month old and a 3 year old. So
Oh.
I'm definitely worn out for sure. But yeah, I think it's for me it was a very slow progression. It was a couple decades of being very unhealthy. I looked super healthy. I mean, if you'd met me a few years ago, I weighed 60 pounds heavier. I was a bodybuilder. And I've definitely gone sort of through the opposite transformation of what you've gone through.
Yes.
And I've
Yes.
just gone sicker, 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 sicker with antibiotics and eating the wrong way and stress and everything else under the book. So I didn't know what healthy was up until
Yep.
a few months ago,
Oh my goodness. This
right?
is so
So,
cool.
well, yeah, you sort of lose touch. I mentioned with you, I just had an interview with Dr. Natasha McBride, and I think a lot of us don't know what natural is, right? We were so far removed from what's natural that we have no idea what natural is or how our ancestors lived, how they ate. Um, you know, we sort of are living this matrix-like world, and I kind of feel like in the last few months I've woken up out of my pod and have this, big pot of goo, and
Yeah.
it's it's not always good for your mental health to
Yeah.
realize what the truth is,
There you go.
but it's very good to have that knowledge. And
Hmm.
I feel like I finally have that power to take healing into my own hands.
It's the
So
ultimate. Yes, it's so incredible. And that was, we like to come to the carnivore for maybe how it can make us look or this and that, but it is a healing protocol. Absolutely.
mhm.
And so I love that the more I get into the journey, the more and more I understand that. And the more I understand why it has been such a dramatic game changer for me. So it's hard for me to know what would have happened in my fasting journey if I had not rounded it out and finished it out with carnivore. And of course, one of the things that I did when I came to carnivore, which a lot of people do, is I was still restricting too much. I was still focusing way too much on maybe like macros or what kind of result I could get or what my measurements were, which as a bodybuilder, I'm sure you understand this obsession with self and muscles and bodies and shapes. And yeah. And so, this is a it's been a wonderful journey for me to move further and further away from those kinds of motivations. And as I'm sort of getting into the mode where I'm doing some health coaching, I'm helping Bella Steak and Butter Girl with a carnivore network that she has developed. That's a support system. The more and more I get into those as well, I just am thrilled at these fundamental healings that I'm seeing. It's just so exciting, just incredible to see that this is a healing journey. This isn't about your shred or looking this way or getting abs in 2 weeks, or, it's not about that. This is about so much more than that. So I've loved that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I create this channel for people who are sick and
Yep.
people who need hope in terms of, healing their own diseases and getting to that root cause and taking their health into their own hands.
Yep.
So I'm wondering at one point, I'm really interested at what point, in your own health journey with your obesity, and, I'm sure you had a lot of, other sort of problems with metabolic disease that tie in with that. At what point did the light switch sort of go off for you and you just said, I need to change things up here? Was it gradual, or was it just it just happened all of a sudden? Like, how did that work for you?
There's two moments, because my health journey kind of comes in two moments. My first moment would have been in the fall of 2017 when I decided to try fasting, and that was such a great fit for me. And then I had a second moment that was my carnivore moment. So that first moment, I was up at around 300 pounds. I was doing a lot of intense exercise. And I was feeling okay. I was always in the fight. I was never one to give up the fight because I had 4 kids and I had a family, and I wanted to be present and energized for my kids and for my family. And so, but what happened was I had an injury and I tore my meniscus, and it landed me on the couch. And so you figure my food addiction, my carb addiction, my sugar addiction, my eating was so out of control that even with doing all this exercise, I still wasn't able to manage the inflammation process in my body. I wasn't able to stay on top of the blood sugar imbalances. I'm not a person that likes to go to the doctor. I'm sure there are, I don't think there's very many people. I never disciplined myself to do that. I kind of showed up, of course, take my kids to the doctor, have my kids taken care of, take them to all the places, but hadn't been doing that for myself. And so I don't have specific markers from that time period. I can't look at it and go, my A1C was this, but I remember how I felt. I think that I was certainly had insulin resistance and prediabetes that was creeping in. And, I don't think there's any way that I could not have had that. So my first moment was an injury that took the exercise away, and a friend, I was planning on getting the sleeve procedure. That's just because I knew that I was literally going to have a life expectancy issue living as this large of a person, that just was too hard on my heart. I knew it. So I was thinking I would just go ahead and go the gastric bypass or sleeve or something like that. But a friend had told me about Jason Fung's book. And I learned that these issues can be resolved through a hormonal healing and through applying fasting, that it isn't a calories in, calories out situation, that there's this whole other way to approach it. So I looked into that way, and I reached out for a ton of support and networking on Facebook groups and formed friendships around that, and just completely committed myself to the fasting process. And so healed so many things from that moment. So that was my low moment with that. My next moment, or I come to carnivore moment, was I had been doing fasting and keto, but I still hadn't done the natural foods. I was still using artificial sweeteners, stevia. Well, stevia is natural. It's a leaf, right? Yes. Yes. Oh, it's great. Let's do that. I really didn't know about gut health. I really didn't understand there's just a lot that hadn't, we learn as we kind of delve into this health journey. We just grab these little snippets and we learn more about all these different processes in our body as we're getting to this wellness point. So this was wanting to overcome my carb addiction, which fasting helps. But then if you still go back and you eat those bad foods and you eat those sweeteners, you eat that stuff, then, and you're not nourished quite well, you don't ever really lose the cravings. So I came to carnivore under the testimony from other people that had said, I can live a life without sugar. And I was like, oh man, I know that's my next step. I know it's my next step to live a life without stumbling back into sugar or sugar-like substances, let's say, because it might not have been sugar per se, but it was all the keto crap. It was the nut butters, the sweeteners, the fat bombs, all that fake kind of candy thing, like thinking, here's this fake food. And I'm making it with all these keto things. Well, it's still as fake as ever. It's still, as long as you're eating that stuff, you don't have room for real food. You don't have room for true nourishment because you're crowding it out with calories from all that other junk. So that was my second moment, was just being gotten through the holidays and had gone so far deep into the keto hole and the sugar-free sweetened crap hole, and was just really hoping that there was a way that I could have freedom from that as well, which was why I decided to try carnivore. So
those damn nut butters, that's my kryptonite, I'll tell you.
Terrible.
So, I really want to get into the fasting topic with you, because it's something that I'm growing more interested in. I have had some experience with fasting over the last year since I started carnivore. But my problem is that, I hate to sound like woe is me, but the problem is that, I've been in such a toxic kind of state with all these gut issues. I have a lot of nutritional deficiencies. I'm underweight. I have oxalate dumping. I have this and die off. I have this and this and this and this and this. The last time I tried to do a long-term fast, well, long-term for me anyway, I tried to do a 48-hour fast. I passed out 30 something hours into it.
Oh gosh.
And I wasn't balancing my electrolytes properly. So there's a lot of issues there as well. But even with balancing my electrolytes, I still have a really hard time going anything really beyond 18 hours. And the thing where I get really frustrated is that I have tried this sort of feasting element to it. But if I do eat too much, then my gallbladder kind of blows up, and I get, like, if I eat too much protein, my kidneys start to hurt. I can't sleep well. I feel like absolute crap. So I don't really know where to begin. And I feel so frustrated around fasting. So for someone like myself, or a lot of other people who listen to my channel who are also kind of in the similar state of not doing well health-wise, is there anything that we could do about that? Is there any maybe baby steps that we could take to fasting, or what do you recommend on that end?
You froze up for a little bit. Am I doing okay? Am I unfroze?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And it's so hard because all of these presentations layer on top of each other. It's actually really hard to identify what exact thing it is that's the issue. What I will say is that this kind of a different approach. So last July is when I had done a ton of fasting up until that July, and I had tolerated it pretty darn well. But I just didn't know how great my fasting could be. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. And this is based on Raymond Nazon. This is his material, but he loves to talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it too. Maybe you'll get him on your channel and he'll talk to you about it too. So he does what he calls priming. And so that's like, we're having Bart do that right now. And so it's not just, it's a 2-week period minimum. Okay. And so folks that have had a lot of prior damage, they're going to stay in that priming zone for longer. The fasting has to follow the priming. And so, but I went about this kind of incorrectly when I started this, is I just thought, oh, feasting and fasting, I can just alternate feasting, fasting, feasting, fasting. You can, and that happens later. So the priming period is the absolute essential baseline for any of it. And there's a couple of things that you can tell when your priming is done. You will have no cravings whatsoever. Absolutely zero cravings. So we've got some indicators of when somebody has primed long enough. But a lot of times when we have somebody coming out of compromised health, then that priming will last longer. So we've absolutely had members that will prime, for a month, 2 months, 3 months longer as part of this program. And so the fasting comes in with after we think, client thinks, member thinks that they are efficiently primed, we test it out with an OMAD. So that's 1 meal a day. So we're not jumping into long fasts. So we're jumping into, that would be like a 23-1 is where we would go for that first one. And then we come back and we feast some more. We have all different levels going, written at all the different levels. You come back to what we call a home base. That's very, very nourished, tons of nourishment within that, depending on, where we're at. So this whole concept of jumping ahead and kind of jumping into these long fasts, can you do it? Boy, well, it didn't go so great for you, did it? Dang it. It is doable. I did it a million gazillion times. I've done it a lot. These jumping in these long fasts, and you kind of boost yourself up, and you got your electrolytes on board, and you've got your, for me, it was different friends that I was texting to try to keep me on the steady. And so then you're forcing yourselves to do all of these adaptations at once. When you can actually look at it from the opposite perspective, you can look at it from a training perspective or like an exercise perspective. It's kind of like trying to just step out the door and run a marathon. Can that be done? Yes, people do that. Is that going to be an effective marathon or one they ever want to do again? Or no, nobody's going to want to do that again. So what has happened is, because folks have not gone about this slow and steady build and built their fast up gradually and always coming back to a more nourished state, that we have a lot of people that hate fasting and that are like, I don't ever want to do that again, or they think it's going to, either they dread it, they get burnt out on it, when really, most carnivores do fast. Most carnivores tend to naturally get into a 1 meal a day or a 2 meal a day pattern. So they're just, without even thinking about it, they're doing like a 16-hour fast every day. So for the longer ones, there is a buildup process, and it has to do with oversaturating all of your hormones. You go through, and I can't remember what they are, Raymond, you can rattle them off. There's your stretch receptor hormones, your ghrelin, your leptin, your peptide YYY. There's all these different hormones that get oversaturated when you go through this priming period. And so you're at such an advantage when it comes time to kind of baby step your way into, try a little longer fast, come on back and renourish, try a little longer fast, come on back. And so it builds over weeks and months. And so like for me, I've gotten to the point where I do a rolling 48 fast in my sleep. It's not a big deal at all. So it's crazy how your body adapts, but is little incremental adaptations at a time. So that's definitely something for anybody that's curious about fasting, that's curious about doing a longer fast. Make sure you're feasting properly, do a prime, do a full nourishment of 2 weeks plus before you even get into this territory, and then build up slowly and always take breaks to come back and replenish before you go back in. Is that helpful?
It is, yeah. So I'm wondering about the priming a little bit, okay? Because so as I mentioned, like, I have a really hard time eating a lot. Like I can't eat, especially protein. If I overeat my protein, my kidneys blow up. I feel like crap, I really try to stay in ketosis because that's where I feel best. So again, so I really try to stick to more fat than anything. But so what does that look like in terms of feasting and priming? Like, to me, when I hear that, I just think of somebody eating like 10 pounds of beef a day or something.
Right.
Right.
Where's our limit? Where's our limit?
Yeah. So what about somebody like me who just can't handle that much food, I guess?
Yeah.
But at the same time gets insane cravings. I've been carnivore now for like 10 months. And I still, if I don't get my 3 meals a day, even though I need to give my digestion a rest, I know I do. And this is partially why I want to do this for the autophagy. But if I don't get my 3 meals a day, my brain starts to go crazy and I feel like crap and I feel faint and this and that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe you can just run that. Sorry, I'm talking.
No, absolutely.
Maybe you
can I love it. I love it.
Maybe you can run by the food.
Yeah. So on one level of it, we're talking about being in a ketosis. Of course, most carnivore or whatever, we don't necessarily have to track that, but I understand that you're saying, how it feels and you feel good in that zone. And I can relate to that. And, there's tracking that is a whole nother story, but, and then on the other hand, I feel like from metabolically, what this issue is it has to do with the fat adaptation. So it has to do with how your body is adapting to work through and access fat stores to work on. And that has to do with the comfort level of where your blood sugar level's at and how this is all kind of going for you. I'm glad to hear that you're high fat. How do you tolerate, do you have digestion issues when you're eating fats, or you do okay with fats so far?
Well, I used to have really bad issues with fat, and it took me a long time to get over that. I still don't do amazing with it. So in the beginning, I hate, sorry if this is TMI for a lot of you guys, but I used to get like the yellow and whitish stools when I went to the bathroom. I used to get, just really just a lot of pain, especially like around where my gallbladder is.
Yep.
Nauseated, all that stuff. I feel like I've sort of come over that a little bit. So fat, I don't do terrible with. If I eat like too much fat, then my acid reflux, which is something I've lived with forever, that will usually get pretty bad. So I have to watch that. What else? My electrolytes, I still have never been able to figure out. I can't figure out my electrolytes. I still I find that now that I've reduced my protein, the electrolyte issue's gotten a lot better. But I still get the cramps sometimes, and I still get, and this is probably from some kind of nutritional deficiency, but I still get a lot of restless leg syndrome, which seems to be worse on carnivore for me for some reason.
Kind of gone up. So for folks that have a variety of different digestion issues or gastric sleeve, which a ton of people have had bypass surgeries. So during the priming phase, we're just going to spread the meals out a little bit more. Okay. And then essentially, because you're saying your body needs a rest, which it makes a lot of sense. Like we usually will say a lot of people will do best if they back off, if they stop eating 3 hours before bedtime. And so we would just go on the hope that is enough of a rest. Yeah. So you're kind of, and we would lean heavy on the fats because you've adapted enough to where you're doing really well with those fats. You know that the protein triggers some things. So this is kind of where this self-knowledge piece is amazing. And so that would be the approach. A lot of folks coming to our program are actually not 100% carnivore yet. And so there's kind of an issue too. There's a little bit of an adaptation if they're not quite to that level. So there's so many different factors that can kind of come in, or, they've maybe got like a sweetener issue or a diet pop issue or something that is still bugging them on that end of things. So in general, that's what we're going to try to do is to take what you used to be eating and double it is the challenge, but we do not want you getting sick, nauseous. We don't want that. So we're actually trying to find that point where you're so full that it knocks out the cravings and that you can get through the cravings, but that we don't push it the other way. And so it is very individual, because an individual can, once they push it the other way, they're like, oh, that was that point. And what's different is, this, that our energy needs are different day to day. And so, especially of course for women, and so it's not like we can prescribe and say, you know, for you, it's going to be 4 pounds of meat, and for you, it's going to be 2 pounds of meat. For you, it's going to be 6 pounds of meat. You know, we can't do that. We just have to say, think in terms of what you used to eat on your normal appetite. This is eating like it's your job. This is eating to not one more bite full. So we have a lot of kind of ideas that we can kind of help folks, you know, to this feasting period of this 2 weeks plus, depending on when the hunger and the bottomless pit and the cravings disappear. That's when we can see, okay, now we're ready to stretch a little bit on this fasting. So, you're so ready for it. It's very difficult. This process of priming is really tricky and difficult. And it's nice that we're in a group environment because we can kind of encourage each other on that. And people, is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal? We can just be right in those chats and helping them problem solve those issues. So, yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but that's kind of how we would approach someone that's coming from a compromised spot. Is we might need to break it up into 6 smaller and pay really good attention to what is their particular, is it protein or fat that's going to kind of get them in trouble one way or the other. So the fact that you're digesting fats well so far is huge and super helpful for that process. Okay.
And so if we could talk a little bit about autophagy. So, you know, you hear so many conflicting things about it. You know, some people say autophagy begins at 14 hours. Some people say it begins at 48 hours. Seems like no one has any idea as to when it actually starts. So I know for myself, like a lot of people say, well, at least 16 hours overnight will really help with inflammation. Now, I don't know if that, you know, if that also means that, you know, there's some autophagy going on there. But can you just talk a little bit to that? Like, what is autophagy? Sure. And if you have any ideas to when it might start.
What is our philosophy here? What do we think? And so, you know, the studies on this that I know of are done on rats, right? And so this is, and I believe it's done through biopsies as far as how they're actually, you know, getting the data on that. So I think that there is going to be some variance and some arguments between the experts out there. And I have heard that the autophagy that it starts at around that 16-hour point, and that, you know, there's some other hormones that come into play during your typical fasting hours as well, such as like your human growth hormone that is muscle protective, that gives you this boost of energy more. Once you're at experienced faster, you'll get these real clarity moments and energy pings, and that could be because of the growth hormone that's playing in there. What I have to say about autophagy is that the best example I have of it, just for myself personally, would be that it's ridiculous the amount of loose skin I do not have. I'm not saying I don't have any.
Yes, I've seen your pictures. Amazing.
If anything points to that, there's something working in my body throughout the fasting process that's different. People that lost, you know, tremendous amounts of weight through fasting, people that lost tremendous amounts of weight and did not include fasting. There's an interesting thing that we could look at. So I have some, absolutely. And my body has about a 20-pound weight range that I don't have my weight doesn't stay the same. It bounces around even at a maintenance point or whatever. And so, you know, at some weights I'll have more and at some weights I'll have less, and that's to be expected. But so just from my personal journey, just looking at that, it's like, well, something has definitely been in there and gobbled up those extra proteins that are happening in there. So yeah, where we get our program gets folks to doing a rolling 48 if they tolerate it well, months down the road after they're completely nourished and have baby stepped into that way. So you know that you're getting a lot.
I'm sharing this picture while you're speaking.
Do it. Totally
look at that. Fine. With all the weight you've lost, look at that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's pretty nuts.
There's no one on the planet that has skin like that after the amount of weight you've lost.
It speaks to both. It speaks to the autophagy and it speaks to the carnivore diet. It's just like both of these combining together, because we've got the substrates to make the new skin and muscle and everything that's regenerating. Okay, so just to come back to the autophagy discussion, autophagy is always happening, okay? Our cells are always regenerating in the background. It's just the levels of it. It's just that if you add the fasting component to it, you're going to get a deeper autophagy because it has to. It's looking for old, the body's looking for old, worn out stuff to catabolize and, you know, provide energy sources. And so at that point, it does go in and grab some of those when it's got nothing to work with. So it kind of forces the hand on that. It ramps it up a little bit. And, you know, there's a lot of incredible research and studies out there in like the cancer world as well.
Yes,
That like, you know, that there's a lot, not all cancer cells, but a lot of cancer cells are kind of wacky and misguided and doing these crazy things. And so when you introduce the fast and you have the autophagy, it'll grab up some of those guys that are not doing so hot. Especially as an adjunct therapy to some of your radiation therapies and things like that. It will, if you're going into that fasted, it will target, you're kind of weakening some of those cancer cells. They'll go in and they'll administer these Western medicines and it will target them. It'll be even more effective and will target the weakened cancer cells and help strengthen basically your stem cells, your original cells that are doing a lot better. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at it. But it is going in the background. There's a lot of other things besides fasting that will trigger autophagy as well. So just like the exercise will trigger some autophagy, some breakdown and some rebuilding. So it's not the only road to get there, but it is a very effective road and it has dramatic results. And I absolutely recommend that people look into that and consider that as part of a lifestyle. And it's very natural. You know, animals fast. When we didn't have access to this like nonstop refrigerators, freezers, every stupid appliance you can have in your kitchen to make it this way or make it that way. And of course our shelf stable foods as well, which are disgusting. So we've got all of this abundance mode. This is unnatural. If we want to talk about natural living, it's unnatural for us to just be constantly, you know, feeding ourselves. So it's a great way to go as far as taking those breaks. And we see it all over in animals that are, you know, just living in the wild. And so it can happen, but we have to unlearn a lot and we have to unhinge ourselves from a lot of habits and we have to unhinge ourselves from the food.
Yeah. When I have fasted in the past, even going beyond like 20 hours or whatever, sometimes I would get that sort of fasting high, you know, I'd be like, oh, I have energy, right? But when I come out of that fast, the second I eat something, I feel like crap. Yeah. And I probably wasn't doing it right because I would just go out of my fast by feasting. You know, I would just break out that good old ribeye and pour the ghee on and stuff like that, right? Gotcha. And I'd be like, oh, I deserve this because I just fasted for 20 hours, right? So
gotcha.
But I'd always feel like crap. I don't know if it's like, you know, because my hormones are all out of whack and I'm still tapering off these psychotropic drugs and I have all these gut issues. Can you speak to that? Like, is there a proper way? Like, first off, why do I feel like crap when I come out of a fast? Or if you know that, and is there a proper way to come out of a fast?
Yeah. So this comes from, we have a lot of different approaches to breaking a fast. I do think that this fasting high that people get, you're obviously are getting more ketones, and a lot of people that just feels wonderful in their brain. It's very anti-inflammatory. So I think it has to do with the anti-inflammatory, the mild ketosis that's starting to kick in. You can definitely get a buzz. And so, yeah, that's a huge letdown when that ends. And so you also, your digestion tract has kind of reset, and it's the microbes have reset in there. And so they're not quite used to it. So sometimes you can get some digestion issues as well as you're getting back and getting used to it. The energy, kind of a lull is very common. Um, so as far as how to break a fast, like in the old books that I would read, they would say things like, oh, break it with bone broth and break it easy and break it this. So we're kind of going the opposite direction of that. We believe so much in the priming process and in the feasting process that we don't think that this is going to be much of a blip. We're not going to say it's not going to be any blip at all. It probably will be, especially as you get into the longer and longer fast. You will have some blips, but the volume on it. This is the volume. We're talking full up, like, oh, I felt so great when I fasted, and now I feel like crap. It's just like 0 to 100, to back to 0 to 100. So we're getting this more normalized, which is why we do what are called rolling fasts. And so you're not just committing to one fast, you're committing to a pattern of fasting. So we're doing pattern to pattern to pattern, and it becomes a lot more normalized to your whole body, which kind of makes sense. And you don't get as much of that as you get further into a rolling fast. It's almost like a deck will do. She's our helpers in SB. She almost will say that, and she's gotten to the rolling 46, rolling 48. It's almost like you have a 2-day day. It's almost like you have a 48-hour day. Let's put it that way, instead of a 24-hour day, or, you know, so it's just a time difference. So that's kind of what we have seen as far as that issue mellowing out over time. And I have certainly experienced that as well, because, and I think that's the reason people give up on fasting. It's like so much drama. It's like so much drama to get geared up for the fast, to do the fast, to accomplish the fast. And then you break the fast, you're like, oh crap, I feel like crud. Now I broke the, you know? Yeah. And so this is a very typical experience. So common. So this is just kind of why I love where we're headed, is we actually soften the bumps on all of that. We get your body used to these roles. And so it takes all of the heights out of this one particular fast, and it kind of spreads it out over weeks and months to where this actually just becomes part of a normal rhythm of life. And it's really splendid how much time you get back. You can be so much more efficient. Bella will say that what she loves about fasting is the mental clarity, which you were starting to kind of get a little bit of that when you have done some of your fasting. And then just the efficiency of not having to eat, you know, this is when you get so fat adapted, you can kind of switch your tanks and just like, okay, just cruise along and doing your thing. Maybe you'll get a little bit of suggestive hunger, a little bit of a dip, you know, something like that. You can just kind of ignore it for a little bit and see if it goes away. Oftentimes it just goes away, and then just move on with my day. And your eating becomes like, I decide when I want to eat. Like I used to have my window in the morning. I really wanted that alone time. I have 4 kids, I'm a big family, and I wanted to eat by myself. And I'm like, I'll cook for y'all and I'll hang out with y'all, but when it's my time to eat, I'm gonna eat by myself. So when I first started, I did like a really early morning. Well, now I'm writing more in the mornings. And so I want that time to write. And so I'm doing, an evening window, which is great too, you know, so, but it's just so cool. I can just kind of look at my week and look at my calendar and look at my days and say, well, when do I want to have the eating time be? And I can decide that. It's just been amazing I got so much time back. So anyhow, I'm pretty far into my 48 right now. So I'm popping, I'm feeling pretty good.
Do you see a lot of people that have like conditions like SIBO, Candida, leaky gut, you know, what they like to call IBS, whatever. Do you see that this is very beneficial, like doing fasting, and what kind of fasting is like beneficial for people with those conditions? You
bet. Absolutely. So it doesn't take those conditions away. Those conditions are not, I don't know a lot of people that I hear that get healed of those, 100% healed, that say, I used to have whatever going on and I don't have that anymore. And it's specific, you know, depending on what it is that somebody's battling. And so they're still there, and the efficiency of fasting is overlaid on top of them, and the efficiency of the feasting, most importantly, that priming period. A lot of people will have improvement through that. And then honestly, once you're able to get through that, it's like what you're saying, your digestion does want a rest and does need a rest. So if you can get it to where your body can tolerate it enough, then you do have some really nice times of digestive rest. And how glorious is that? You know, when you're someone that's suffering with that and has that pain and knows that pain, then if you can kind of know, okay, around eating time, if you're doing maybe an alternate day fast, an alternate day fast is an up day and a down day. And if your body adapts to that and does really well with that on your day, that's your down day or your fasting day, you're not going to have to run to the bathroom and have an issue with that. Like that's not, you're not going to have to plan your day around that. Like that's going to be a smooth day. And then, but you know, very, very likely on your up day, it's not going to make the issue go away. You're probably still going to be wrestling with that and problem solving that and figuring out your macros or your enzymes or whatever it is, the tools that you've figured out are helping you in that journey. Probably on your eat days, you're still going to be utilizing those tools to help you with that.
Okay. Yeah. So how long does it typically take for somebody to get adapted to fasting?
Yeah.
If they join your group and
yeah.
What do you typically see? I know everyone's different, but I mean, do you have
sure. No, absolutely. And honestly, Coach Raymond's working on a schedule right now that's going to go. Yeah, he's always playing around with stuff because he's coached hundreds of clients, and so he's noticed clients. He's had them with all different disorders and all different, you know, health issues that he's kind of pays attention and learns through. It seems to me that so right now we've got 3 different levels going, and they each take about 5 weeks. So that would be 15 weeks until you would get all the way. But, you know, even a lot of folks after even about 6 weeks, I would say are able to do a rolling fast of some kind. The first rolling fast that's done is an alternate day fast. And so that's usually about 32 to 36 hours. So usually folks are doing that, oh goodness, within about 6 weeks, I'd say. So, and that's including a 2-week priming period. So that's kind of assuming that folks are able to get completely primed. This is 100% carnivore, by the way. Any kind of non-carnivore that comes in on this, we really can't say because it, you know, our body sees the carbs and the sugars and all that as toxins. You know, it's kind of changing everything. And so that, you know, assuming 100% carnivore, and assuming that our folks have a smooth priming process as far as a successful priming process, and they're able to do that first OMAD, then they're able to do a couple more OMADs, and they're able to, you know, then they're able to, you know, kind of builds like this. But yeah, usually within about 6 weeks, people can be doing some version of a rolling fast.
Okay. And, you know, I just, for myself, you know, I think it'd be really helpful to be part of a group that does this stuff so you could encourage each other, right?
I agree.
Are there any groups that you recommend in particular? Like, I know you're working with the steak and butter gang. So can you just maybe list a few of your favorite groups?
Yeah, absolutely. And you tell me too, because I don't know of all the groups that are out there. But this has been great fun. And a lot of the leaders in the space or the influencers in the space are starting to host their own Zooms. And so anytime I hear about that, I jump in on them because I'm just so excited in the lifestyle and love to kind of ping off of people. And so like, for example, well, JC has one actually. JC has she has a Facebook group called
Meat Fam.
Thank you. Yeah. I forgot what it was called. Yeah. And
I love JC. She's great.
I do too. Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Guys, by the way, if you're wondering who JC is, Lady Carnivore. Okay. She has a really great Instagram, YouTube channel. She has her Facebook group, the Meat Fam. So check her out too.
Incredible recipes. Have you made the slutty eggs? That's why I can't make slutty eggs without referring to JC. Do you use those, Scott?
I wish I could. I don't tolerate, I don't really remember. First off, I don't tolerate eggs very well.
Yeah.
And I think there's bacon in them, which I can't eat as well. So
no bacon.
No bacon?
Okay. Nope. It's just a technique. JC is the queen of cooking techniques. And so she can make you anything from the carb world, and she can make a carnivore version of it. It's amazing. Okay. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. And I know she has a lot of that stuff available on her Patreon and things like that too. Okay. So she's got one going that is so I love to drop in on those when I can. You know, who just started one is the carnivore doctor, Lisa, I can't remember the last name.
So Weidman.
Thank you.
So I did a consultation with her.
Hey, she's fantastic.
Check her out, guys. Yeah.
Holy crap, she's 57 and she does her little bikini talks walking on the Jersey beaches, and she's just phenomenal. So Lisa's got them going. I just see that she started some Zoom groups going. I think she does them twice a week as well. They're wonderful. Of course, Kelly Hogan's doing this now, so she's you can sign up, and she's got the same form. Well, it's not the same format. I'm not sure. I don't have time to go to did. Of course, Rivero has all kinds of, you can get a Rivero membership and join all kinds of meetings that they have going live in this manner. I believe the Berries have things going like this. And so there's a lot. And I think this is going to be the new way, because there's something about being on a Zoom call and a Zoom meeting where you really get to see people's faces and you get to share experiences. And, in Bella's group, Steak and Butter Gang, and she has, she's on the Mighty Networks. It's not on Facebook or anything. She does it through a whole different platform called Mighty Networks. And what's really cool, she has a free group that's available, and then our monthly challenges, and they're right at $30. So it's pretty reasonable. And I think it's like 8 hours of meetings that we do. But we have such a sense of community that, one of our coaches went through a story that was really personally whatever, and we were all crying, whatever. So it's just kind of cool. Like, you get an aspect of it that you don't necessarily get just from looking at someone's Instagram profile or watching their YouTubes. Like, when you get that live and keeping it real, and because we're not out there saying, oh, this is your Cinderella story, and your before was like this, and our after is this solved all our problems. And, it just kind of takes that away from it. Nobody's there to sell anything or promote anything. We're just there to support each other, and what's so cool is everybody has these different levels of expertise too. So we'll have a lot of folks in meeting that will suggest something else that just like, oh, that would be a cool thing to try. So I don't know, those are ones I know of. I know Barry's got one, Lisa's got one, JC's got one, Bella's got one. Those are some of the communities out there that I know of. I'm sure there are tons more out there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to link them down below for if you guys are interested. I'm going to link them below.
Oh yeah, you bet.
I should probably join some myself, but
come and join ours. No,
I will. I am really struggling. JC, Lady Carnivore, kind of talked a bit on the point that you just sort of mentioned there, that everyone in this community, or most people in this community, are super helpful. We're all in this together, right? Like, we really want to get to root cause healing, live the best version of ourselves, getting back to that sort of ancestral type of living. Absolutely. That is so crucial for our mind, body, and soul,
Yep.
But there is that sort of element with some people. It's JC said it was like toxic positivity, right?
Yeah, I heard you say that. Yeah.
Right. And you go on Instagram and people are saying like, oh, within a week of doing carnivore, all my health issues feel healed after decades of being, and then they have all their affiliate supplements and,
please.
And it's very like, it's a very superficial type feel, and it really is discouraging to people. I hate to sound like some millennial or something like that, right? But I find that like it could be very discouraging for like people like me and many other people I've talked to. This is part of the reason why I created this channel, right? Because I felt like there wasn't really a huge voice out there for people who are like really sick. And where I talked to Dr. Natasha, she's like, it could take you years to heal.
Right.
Like,
you bet.
It could take many months. So all these people are just saying like, oh, eat beef and salt and everything's miraculously going to get better within a few weeks. It doesn't happen that way for most people. Some people, yes, but we have to be real about this, right? And there's no magic pill. It takes hard work to healing. And do you have anything like, if there's like one piece of advice relating to this that you could offer people, what would it be? Like what would you say for
I
people who
will.
are feeling frustrated and they're not seeing results right away and they're
Yeah.
not entering those bikini competitions right away? And
Right.
yeah.
I would encourage a support piece. That is what I would say. So since we do have these communities in effect and going, I would look at all of them, maybe link them down below there. And I think that should be the first step, because I think it's a lot more real and it's a lot more palatable than just the fantasy of what we dream up when we dream of our healing or something. That's not real. That's a fantasy. So I think the more you can talk to real humans in live time and see them, that you're going to get a more accurate picture of how that might go for you. So that would be my advice. Absolutely, would be to check out these support communities and just try it. Just try to attend a couple of them. And I think that's going to really help the journey. There's not a lot of carnivores out there. There's more and more all the time. I actually met a friend of mine just decided to go carnivore, and she somehow had heard that I was as well. So now every time I see her at our little mommy meetups, little homeschool stuff, then I'm like, oh, how's it going? So I have one in real life carnivore friend.
Yeah.
But most of my carnivore friends are, in my computer somewhere, but I still love connecting with them, and it means a lot. So that's what I would say.
In-person carnivore meetups. I don't know where you are. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida. I recently moved here, but
yeah. Oh, we're into it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're in Washington State. So, but who coordinates those a lot is Lisa. She does a lot of, so she's got one going in New Jersey right now. That's kind of her thing. When she goes on vacations, she just says, hey, let's all meet at wherever, a carnivore friendly spot.
Yeah. Let's all meet up at Denny's and we'll get a
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I know that's exactly where we'll go. We're all going to go to Denny's. That's exactly what we want. So I think she's actually got something cooking for Florida. As a matter of fact, I looked on her IG not too long ago, because I was sort of wanting to go to the one that she had going in New Jersey. It's so far away. And then I don't feel motivated to go to New Jersey. But when I saw she was doing one in Florida, it's like, well, now that's one I could think about.
I gotta get onto that. And just relating to what we just talked about in terms of like it not being all sunshine and rainbows doing this diet all the time. That a lot of people I talk to, I really do promote this diet for healing a lot. I really believe in sort of a keto carnivore diet for healing leaky gut and all that stuff. But a lot of people give up right away because a lot of people have this idea in their head that healing comes with just feeling better and sort of this linear process of getting better, right? And I really try to hammer home to people that it could get a lot worse before it gets better, because part of the healing is a detox process, right? And there could be like an onion, there could be a lot of layers to that detoxing. If you got oxalate problems, you have mercury, mold, whatever, insulin resistance, blah, 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 right? There could be so many layers to it, and it could come on, you get windows and waves with it. So there's so many different things that you have to take into account there.
I agree. It's simple. It's not easy, and it can be a bumpy road, which is another reason why I think support is so important, because people will say it didn't work for me.
Exactly. I've had so many people say that. It's frustrating because it's just like you just have to pay the price before you make it to the other side and have that beautiful life,
You got to stick with it. You really do. And it's kind of like however long it takes. And what are your other options exactly? It's just like, so I appreciate that. And I think about that when people say beef only. It's like, you don't jump out right out the gate and go beef only. You'll feel like crap and you'll spite the beef. That would be as dumb as saying, go ahead and start with a 72-hour fast. No, No, you can't do that. That will make you hate fasting. So I think that I love this perspective of nourishing first, of eat the meat that you love, eat the meat that you can afford, not getting, and, you know, don't try to do a gazillion biohacks on top of it. Don't go get your ice bath and ground, you know, just focus on the beef, right? Just focus on the meat, just focus on the meat that you love, that you, and commit yourself to working through this transition, because there will be a transition period. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
And sort of one last question I had, do you guys recommend supplements, or do you recommend removing all supplements, or how do you go about that? Because I myself included, a lot of people I talk to are supplement addicts doing this, right? And they want all these things that they think are going to help them. And I found, in the end, and I just kept hammering away at those, dozens of supplements for years and years and years. And I personally, I think they all just made me worse. So I mean,
agree.
do you have any recommendations around that? Like, what about the electrolytes or?
Yep. Yeah. So we like to go further and further away from the supplements as we possibly can. We just think that true nourishment on meat is the answer. And so what's kind of cool, we have Stephen Thomas is one of our coaches. He's a veteran coach. He's been doing this for a really long time, and he has a gazillion different science degrees. And so he can actually go in, supplement by supplement and explain to our members where you can get that one from meat, where you can get that one from meat, where you can get that one from meat. And so, that's his take, and our take is that this is absorbable and this is bioavailable. Of course, everybody says that. The supplement companies say that, right? So everybody's saying this. As much as possible, we try to not go on the supplement road. Electrolytes seem to be an individual based on your activity level and your transition in the process, but we have plenty of members that don't even use salt, and we have plenty of members that use them. That's a little bit of a just on your own, make that choice, but depending on how you feel. It's salt, you want to hit the salt first if you're going to do an electrolyte. The big issue with electrolytes is the sweeteners. So you just have to find an electrolyte that doesn't have sweeteners. If it doesn't have sweeteners in it, it's okay to use kind of as needed and as you personally benefit from it. But there are plenty of people that don't.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that was awesome. So I really appreciate learning about fasting from you and learning about all these awesome groups. Where can we find you? I'm going to link all this stuff in the description below, but
sure,
where can
you
we
bet.
find you? How do we sign up for all this good stuff that you're talking about? And
yeah, absolutely. So I'll have you link our SB gang, Steak and Butter gang on Mighty Networks. And that's where I spend most of my time. I love it. I'm just having a blast in there, just, getting to know members, and we have a lot of chat box going and learning a lot. And then of course we have our Zoom meetings going all throughout the week. And then my Instagram is Melt That Snow. I'm on it. I'm not on it as much lately because I'm just so busy, just in group, just enjoying it. And Coach Raymond and I offer 2-on-1 coaching right now as well. So that's going really well for just folks wanting that individual. We can do, a 45-minute consult. Sometimes that's all somebody needs, is just a consult where we can kind of get them headed on this right direction and get them going. Most of our clients at this point tend to benefit from a weekly 30-minute coaching session. So that's out there as well. But so I don't know. I hope that helps. It's Mighty Networks. It's just an app where you can access it from a desktop, and it's Steak and Butter Gang. So she's got a free group going that we post. Everybody posts their recipes, their progress pictures, thoughts on how they're doing. And then there's monthly challenges where it has access to the meetings. So.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for talking with me, Emily. I do look forward to maybe signing up for some of this stuff, and
great.
Really hoping to get my health in where I want it to be in 2022, as I'm sure many of you guys are as well. But I'm really looking forward to everything to come. I mean, this is such an exciting space to be in, and such an exciting community to be part of. So I'm super grateful for you guys, and thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us today.
You bet. Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Emily. Okay.
You bet.
Bye-bye.